Welcome to another episode of An Extraordinary Take, where we share extraordinary ideas and visions with extraordinary people. My name is NkululekoMhlongo, and I'm so excited that you've taken the time to join me as we learn and grow together. Let's get into it, shall we? Hello, it is the festive season. I'm not a festive season person, but for those of you who do celebrate and do all those kinds of things, happy festive season, happy Merry Christmas. It's gonna be Christmas. This will probably drop. That's gonna be interesting, Freeman. How will this drop? Because we drop on Thursdays, and Thursday is Christmas, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think anyone is trying to watch a podcast on Christmas Day, but we'll see how it goes. Welcome to An Extraordinary Take. My name is Bo. And I'm so excited to be sitting here. It's been a while, but I'm so glad to be back. There's a lot going on, lots of health issues, but I'm rebranding next year. I'm done with being sick. I was so sick this year, and I'm done. So hopefully we will have the chance to be more regular, but I just want to thank you guys for keeping up with us and being part of this journey. And I'm so glad that we've made it this far. This is the last episode of the year, which is so bittersweet, but also so great because it's such a great milestone. And to end it off, I'm so excited to have our guest today. We are talking mental health during the festive season. I know that there are people who are like me who are not so festive, and some people who are very festive, but a lot can come up from a mental health perspective during the festive season. And that's why I have my guest, whose name is Dr. NkululekoMhlongo. He's got quite an extensive bio, so I'm just gonna do my best to make sure I do him justice. He's known as Dr. Beta. He's gonna tell us, I think it's in the name, but I'd love to know how you came up with that. He's a counseling psychologist based in Gauteng. He holds an MA in psychology and is registered with the HPCSA. Beyond his private practice, he's also a community activist, a media voice for healing, and he hosts the show called Roxic on SABC1. I'm not sure if that's still on, but that show just helps people navigate toxic relationships, and he's there to advise some of the guests. He was raised in KZN just like me, and I recently found out in Vryheid, where I went to school, so we had a lot to talk about that. His work is deeply rooted in compassion, resilience, and empowering individuals to transform their lives. He's passionate about psychodynamic and CBT approaches. I don't know what that is, but you'll tell me. And his mission is to make mental health accessible and relatable to everyday South Africans, and we know how important that is. Welcome so much, Dr. Mhlongo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for making the time. It was very short notice, and I'm so grateful. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. Thank you so much for the invitation. Very appropriate topic as well. I'm quite excited.
Me too. I think it's the perfect time for it, and I think we don't consider just how hectic the holiday season can be from a mental perspective. We usually talk about the financial part and all the other things, but not mental. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit. I mentioned some of the stuff in your bio, CBT approaches. You are a psychologist. How did you get into that? What was your journey? If you could take us through that.
I think I've always wanted to be a therapist, but I've always wanted to be in a helping career.
Sure.
Because of my mother, she's a professional nurse. I see as my Florence Nightingale. She's amazing.
Oh, wow.
So I studied sports science because I didn't want to go back home. I think at that time, crime was quite rough. And as a young boy, black specifically in a township, you want to ascribe and belong in a particular group or setting. Yeah. And at that time for me, crime, carrying lives, this and this was quite hectic. So I told myself, if I don't make it, I'm just going to resort to such. So I did make it. I don't want to go back home. So I wanted anything that had life sciences. Sure. So I did sports science. was bad at it. I hate sports.
No.
I hate sports.
Why would you do? Okay, it was just like a way to do something.
Yeah, because it had bio and physics. But in terms of sports, I support Kaizer Chiefs, but I wouldn't name 5 players there.
Okay, so you're just like me.
Only when it plays with the rivals. But yeah, so I did that. I was heavy on the alcohol as well at that time. It was just bad. So I don't know, and I had an epiphany just at once. I stopped everything, applied at Wits.
Okay.
And the rest was history as well. So studied, stopped drinking. It was also this period in December.
Wow. And how old were you?
Probably I was maybe 20 or 21 there.
Hectic.
So I just stopped everything then. I just focused. So it was just gym, lecture hall, commune, gym, lecture hall, commune. That's it.
And what was it that really kind of gripped you about psychology? Like, what was it that you really loved about it?
I was told I was going to be able to read minds, but and have the amazing skill set and all of that. And it also looked kind of cool. And I think it was a time where at that time, there weren't a lot of black, psychologists, specifically males as well. Yeah. So I just wanted to be that anomaly, and also just, I don't know, I wanted to actually be that. Yeah. And
do you think you can read minds?
I can try. I'm joking, I can't. And I had one guy, I remember, Dr. Mhlongo from Friday, actually. I'd shadow him. I remember I was doing my first year. Yeah. I'd always go to his practice and just sit there and just chat to him.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so from first year until masters, he's been around. He's been quite an amazing support structure.
So there was also like quite a bit of mentorship.
Yeah, right? There was.
Which is so important.
I'd daydream, I'd imagine.
Oh, that's amazing. I think like in the mental health space, having those conversations is so important. But you touched on another important point, which is like male psychologists, and even just having access to somebody that another man that you can speak to, that you can look at, that you feel kind of understands your own journey, because we do have a pretty hectic patriarchal society, right? Where the idea is that for the most part in certain communities, a woman can't tell you anything, right? So that does drive into whether men are even able to speak to the women around them. And so having people like you, having men in the space, then also allows us to be able to say, well, there is a way, and there are people that you can speak to.
Yeah, definitely. So that's important. I mean, it speaks to, gender roles, speaks to masculinity, it speaks to the ideas of also vulnerability and the ability to actually express yourself as a black man specifically.
Exactly.
So I think it's quite important. And I think women are quite, amazing and powerful creatures or human beings, because I think, like, for me, the first form or informal form of psychotherapy, it's actually domestic workers. You'd find them in the northern parts of or suburb, where they'd just sit down, maybe around 1 o'clock. You'd find them sitting there just talking. So. So that for them was psychotherapy for me. So that's when I picked it up. It's easier for them to relate and open up. So I'm trying to actually take that particular modality and make it normal for men as well, to sit around and just not only talk about cars, women, and sex, but also speak about how they feel and how they want to.
How are you?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And it kind of goes to the question that I wanted to ask, right? When I was doing research around this, I found that 2025 is considered a breakthrough year for therapy in SA. And this just pertains to the number of people that have gone to therapists, that are looking for help. But even in the workplace, they're now starting to bring that in as well, which is obviously really great. And I wanted to ask you, what changes are you seeing in terms of like the access of therapy, as well as the attitude towards therapy, but more importantly, touching on what we just spoke about, what is the ratio? Like, are you seeing more males and more female? I'm kind of biased. I mean, I think global studies kind of show it's more women that are more inclined to go to therapy and that will keep up with therapy. But I do think that there is a shift that's coming where you're seeing a lot of males going into that space. What has been your experience in terms of just how people view therapy as a whole, and then that gender dynamic?
Oh, that's a very, very, very important question to actually touch and unpack. I think for me, starting out in therapy, especially as a student, I remember my parents never understood that as well. So it was only when I started my honors, I'd be like, no, next year, Mama, I'll start practicing. I started being invited to family meetings. So I saw the trend in the sense that people see as a person who's mature and has all the things and the right tools. But over the past few years, in terms of therapy, looking at the gender ratio as well, it's been quite varied as well, saturated. From, for instance, I'll make an example. I'll see men only when they've cheated on their wives.
Sheesh.
I'll see men only when they've experienced a traumatic incident as well. So I'm here because I want to change, and I promised my wife it won't happen again. I'm here because I'm having trouble or difficulty sleeping, man. I don't know what to do. So it's been only on those terms, but less on I want to actually challenge childhood traumas. I'm stepping into a new rite of passage in life. I'm about to get married. So I just want to come here and just find out where I am and where, I'm here because it's been years since I've actually not spoken to my parents. So there's now that trend that I'm actually seeing quite often than not. And I'm now getting a lot of calls from males saying that, dog, I need to book a session. And I remember another thing that actually made me in terms of, it was the media things, I started getting shows, interviews, blah, 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 blah. So friends from the community, especially in townships, that say, oh, dog, I was watching your show. Actually, that interview on ENCA or Newsroom Africa, you were speaking about dyslexia. So I'm thinking, imagine dyslexia.
Sure.
And we're now having a conversation around that. I'm now telling them what that actually is or what it means. And they're like, dog, wow, what do you know about autism? My child is not speaking, actually. So it's very now, people are more accessible. They're more inclined. And it was back then, it was a matter of literacy as well.
Yeah.
So more people now are getting more educated than they were before as well.
Yeah.
So them understanding the particular concept that they're actually challenged in certain communities, they're now able to actually ask certain questions as well.
Sure. I find that interesting what you said, because what it sounds like to me that the beginning part is when men access therapy, it's more from a reactive kind of perspective rather than from a proactive. So now something has happened, you've cheated on your wife and she's like, I'm leaving. Either you get help and then they go, or it's something, a big traumatic thing has happened and it is affecting you in a tangible way, and you're going. And what would you say is the importance of taking a more proactive approach, right? Like what the example that you are making about saying, look, I'm stepping into marriage, or I'm noticing that there is a lot of trauma within my family dynamic, and I just want to learn how to work on that, or I want to know how to communicate better. I've noticed that I get defensive, or whatever the case is. What would be the benefits of that? Because I do think that reactive approach, it's great that we get them in there, but I do think there is something about being more proactive overall and seeing like the importance of working on your mental health.
Yeah, no, important question. I think for me, the importance of a person being proactive is two things. It allows you to, it's quite individualistic, as well as actually quite intentional as well.
Yeah.
So proactive means it comes from me. It means I've actually been thinking about it. There's an I, and it has a lot of intentionality to that and wanting to change something as well. For instance, I grew up in a community, or you grew up in a family or household where there's a lot of violence. So therefore I'm seeing patterns, especially when I'm mad, I'm slamming doors. So therefore let me rather curb the particular generational curse as well, for it not to come and actually enter this particular generation that I'm at. So proactiveness allows a person to be more intentional and to be more present in the things that they want to fix as well. So it makes therapy kind of easy and structured to say, okay, this time we're going to fix this, we're approaching this, we're addressing this. I'm giving you a skill set in terms of how to understand and when to actually understand when you're triggered, what else that you need to do. So a lot of emotional regulation, a lot of exercise and activity to get to know yourself. So hence I always tell people that, for instance, why therapy, what's the importance of therapy? I always tell them, listen, anybody who's in therapy is a very dangerous human being, because this person is actualized. I always tell them, in therapy, I'm about to introduce you to yourself as well. So that's the importance of actually therapy, because there is an element of you being proactive, unlike you being reactive.
That's a very, very good point. And I think particularly within the Black community, I think this conversation is so important, because there's so many things that we grew up witnessing, and even things that were done to us that, we weren't just witnessing them, we were now actually experiencing, that nobody kind of sat us down and said, hey, how are you doing? Like, are you okay? What happened? I mean, I remember something as crazy as my aunt died, and she was like very, very close to us, and her son, came out and he was crying crying, you know, on the day of the funeral, and they were like, my family is like very averse to like lots of tears. It's a religious perspective of, you know, God's got us and what. So there's a lot of kind of stifling that happened. Yeah. And you kind of see as we get older how that then affects us. And so I think it's so important that proactivity, nobody is exempt. You know, nobody comes from a family where you're like, oh no, we were fine. There's nothing. There's always something to be able to look at. And I'm such an advocate for that. But I'm also noting, right, that there is a now kind of like a group and this generation that is privy to that, right, that understands that, and there's now more access to therapy, and this is on a global scale, and you'll see it when you look online, right? And I don't know if this is connected, but I think it is, but you'll be able to tell me more. What we're now also seeing is this sense of, what my parents put me through, what my family put me through is actually insane. Like, and it's not okay. Like, I think you grow up and you're like, what? Like, in what world? Because there was so much that we accepted. There was so much that was normal. Like, and some of it was cultural. Some of it was because of apartheid and colonialism, you know. So it's certain things had to happen that way. But you grow up and you're like, I would never put my children through that. I would never do the same thing. And then now you're getting conversations around no contact, right? Where there's a growing trend of the younger generation, and I use the word younger loosely, right? It's people from 25 and above, and sometimes a little bit younger, going no contact with their parents, where they've been in situations where they're just like, I'm not going home. I haven't spoken to my mother in 2 years because I'm just done. And there's also talk of more boundaries within families, something that in Black communities, we know nothing. Yini boundary, what do you mean? Yini boundary in Zulu, for example, right? So what do you think as a psychologist is driving this trend? I think from a global perspective, but as well as specifically here in South Africa, because I'm starting to see a lot more of it when I have certain conversations. For example, I had a conversation about Black tax a couple of months ago, and I had a lot of people saying, well, this is why I no longer talk to my family. This is why I haven't been home in 3 years. Where do you think that's coming from?
I definitely think it's a phenomena that we need to unpack, and I'd like to call it subconscious conscientization that happens.
Sure, what is
that?
It's
very high level in the sense that they are not being fed that, listen, what happened just because by virtue of culture this person is older than you, so therefore you need to be well-mannered, so you need to say yes, you need to continue, you need to be gazella. But people are not being fed that. It's people then conscientizing themselves in a form of them just living life and seeing that, listen, there's some readjust that needs to actually happen here. That wasn't actually healthy, that wasn't fine. So therefore I don't want to subject myself unto that, which then forms part of people being more aware in terms of mental health as well. So there are a lot of trauma that happened, and trauma is a way of, inviting itself later in life, many years before the particular incident actually had happened. So it's important for you to understand and actually trace it back to say this is where it is. But there's some stubbornness in that. So Abadala, if you are acting in a different manner, they see you as very rebellious as well. So remember, it's different generations, so therefore they are prone to certain understanding or pinnacles of particular ideologies. So you're then coming with this now. They've never lived in this particular moment and understood how this world actually works. So it's quite difficult for them. Hence there's a lot of emergence or resurgence of certain identities in terms of people within even the community. That wasn't something that they actually had in terms of the LGBTQI plus community as well. Something that they're not privy of, they don't understand, they don't know it. People are getting married younger. There's a high divorce rate. There's particular crimes that were not even there. So there's a lot of consciousness as well that people do not actually have in terms of moral ethnicity as well. So I feel like there's a lot that is happening subconsciously that we then tend to ascribe to, if I can see that that I actually identify with you. So then it's very stubborn. The movement is quite robust in the sense that it's seen as an attack to whether it's older understandings or pinnacles as well. But it's definitely there.
Yeah. And I mean, how, for example, does the older generation navigate something like that in the sense that, like, okay, now you've got a child who's saying, actually, Ma, I'm done, right? Because we get to a lot of, I think from my experience, where part of the issue is, and part of what I'm seeing, I mean, Oprah did a whole show on this as well, where somebody communicates, actually, this is what hurt me when you did this, and when you said this, when I was younger, and when this happened, and you know, and there's a willingness to move past it, but then there's this defensiveness that comes from the parent and the family members of, so you're saying I'm a bad parent. Like, it always goes from 0 to 100. Yep. So you're saying I did nothing good for you. Did you not have a roof over your head? Did you not, you know? And there is that unwillingness to kind of have the conversation, to go toward the pain and to be able to receive what the other person is saying. What are some of the tools that you would kind of give both parties, right? Because part of what I wanted to talk about, and one of the questions that I had is there a way to reach a middle ground, right? Because I'm sure that this is going to have a massive impact on our family dynamics, right? Like, we are in December. There's lots of talk of people just not going home because they're tired. They don't want it anymore. Is there a middle ground, or is this how we reach change? Is this the only way for us to become the better, more healed generation?
I think for me, yes and no. Yes, in a sense that I think for me, especially in the show that you mentioned, sometimes I don't have happy endings. Sometimes I unpack it and I give them a particular understanding that says, at least we sat down. That's a start. So even if there's resistance, even if there's manipulation to say, but I gave you a home, I had to do this and this and this, which rightfully so you did. Whether as a single parent, whether it was cut tough at that time, you know, running away from your father, abusive relationship, blah, 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 blah. But also there needs to be a form of actually accepting and acknowledging certain right and wrongs that happened. So it's very important for us. I think there is middle ground in the sense that we've sat down. I've actually had the courage to actually speak about how I felt and how I was actually, you know, navigating how the pain and the trauma that actually caused me. Because if it's there, it means, guys, we can never fake a particular emotion, whether it's good or bad. So it needs to be addressed. It needs to be felt as well. So pain demands to be felt at any given time. So I feel like in as much as we can sit down, there'll be resistance. There'll be fights. There'll be tables. There'll be, you know, plates being thrown away. But the fact that we sat down for me is very important. And the fact that you were very much, you know, assertive in your stance in expressing yourself, that for me is kudos to that. It's important. Whether it brings a different narrative to the family now, there was a funny series that people used to do around mental health. They're like, hey, kids, aren't you depressed? So, you know, but nonetheless, they know you spoke up, or maybe it was through an attempt, but either or, you know now how I feel about certain things. So it's important for us to know that. And the trends then speak to a lot of people who are also literate now. They are very educated. So education not only then gives you degrees or anything, but it also makes you more aware of certain things. It gives you insight as well to say that maybe let me come back and have this conversation. So approaching any conversation that is actually uncomfortable in the most politest, more mannered approach for me is the way to go. But it needs to be let out. It needs to be felt.
Oh, that's such a good point, because what I'm hearing you say is that it's not so much about how it's received or the outcome. It's that you get to express it. It's that you get to have the platform to say, this happened to me and it wasn't okay. And I think that's such a game changer for me, right? Because I think we often, what even prohibits us from having these conversations is you're thinking about, then they're going to say this, then they're going to do this, or then I'm going to be ostracized, or whatever the case is. But what you're saying is just the middle ground might just be that, or the breakthrough might just be that you get to say it.
Yeah, because we subconsciously results driven. You know, we need to sit down and actually re-narrate that to say, this needed to happen, this conversation, this session needed to happen, that's it. Sure. Whether the outcome is this or that, and let me not think of outcomes, maybe let me think of just how am I going to get this person to actually sit down and just listen. That's
sure.
it.
That's incredible. And that's such a great point. I think it's helpful even to me, because I often think about like, oh, it's not worth it. Like I'm going to bring this up, and then this person is going to say this, and then I'm going to feel terrible about, you know. Yeah. But I do wanna speak into, right, the how you navigate the guilt and the grief that comes with that, because there is something to be said about going to somebody and saying, this hurt me, right? Like, when you did this hurt me, and them saying, no. Like, what do you mean? Like, I did the very best, you know, that I could. And then I go back to like another conversation with a friend of mine that who says he like went to his dad and he wanted to have a conversation with him after like years of estrangement and lots of difficulty. And he just went to him like, and he said like, I forgive you, you know, I forgive you for everything that happened. I forgive you. And his dad was like, for what?
Sure.
You know? And so there is something like that where like your pain is not recognized by the person that inflicted it on you. There can be like so much grief that comes from that, and there can also then be a sense of guilt that comes from making the decision to go no contact, or making the decision to say, you know what, I can't be triggered anymore. How do you then, after having that experience, how does one navigate that, right? We are the generation that's going to therapy, we're doing the work, but there is a lot of hurt that comes from just recognizing that our parents will just never get it.
Yeah. But also remember, hurt is healing as well. Hurt is the first step to any particular healing. The tears that you cry are you revolutionizing your own particular pain.
Sure.
That's very important for you to understand, that as much as they will, guilt will definitely come. It's inevitable. If I'm actually then approaching a person and expressing myself how I feel, I'd feel some type of way afterwards as well. But remember, approaching, speaking about it, and actually making sure you have felt is also empowering. So the end goal should be empowerment, not a particular change or anything. So you've then feeling empowered that at least I'm not going to be, there's no need for me to have that conversation again. Yeah. And that's it.
Sure. That's actually, that's a good point. I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Gabor, and he said like that, he said, whenever you feel guilty, you should actually throw a party for yourself, because you've probably for the first time done something just for yourself. You've managed to put yourself first, which is something that we're so averse to, right? So he's like, sometimes it's a good thing, right? Sometimes it's a way of saying, I wanted to say no, and I actually did, right? Like I didn't want to go, and I didn't go. I didn't betray myself, and I do think you're right. I think it's going back to that initial point. It's not so much about the outcome, but more about you giving yourself the license to be heard, to say what you feel, and then maybe just recognizing that the work is yours to do, right? You may not be able to take everybody along with you, but you do kind of change the narrative in the future that comes, right?
No, you do. You also manage to pick up certain trends. Maybe you were enabling this particular behavior, and you're like, let me not be hard on myself as well. You know, I had no choice. I had no way out at that particular moment, but the fact that I'm experiencing guilt, it means I was proactive, I was, intentional. It was about me in terms of breaking this curse as well.
So I guess we keep having the conversations, or at least we find some way of expressing, and then maybe just going like, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to agree, this is just how I feel, and I wanted to let you know. Now, going to the season that we in, which is the festive season, when I was thinking about this, I was recognizing that it can be such a triggering time for so many people. And you'll see on social media, we'll start speaking about, yo, sisi emakhaya, now you're going to get that aunt that's going to say to you, how was wakulpala? But then it's also like, it can go deeper, right? Where I think there's very few families, whether you guys know it or not, that don't have these dynamics where we're going home to have Christmas with our sexual predators, with people who in some shape or form harmed us, whether physically or emotionally, and those people were shielded by family. So for a lot of people, going home is difficult, and they know that this is what they're going home to. How does one navigate that, right? How do you even begin, and what do you do? What would your advice be to someone who's saying, look, it's December, I have to go home, but I know there's my uncle who did 1, 2, and 3, or I know that I'm going to be asked again about how when are you getting married? And this is actually a sore point for me, because it's something I want. It's just not happening. There are a lot of people that feel like this. Or when are you having children? Whatever the case is, how does one navigate those kind of extremes with the season?
Yeah, I think for me the season is quite a challenging one for a lot of people. Actually, I think what I'd like for them to understand and want them to first actually see or unpack is that, guys, joy and grief happens in the same continuum.
Sure.
Okay. So you can be as happy as you can, but also there's sorrow somewhere there in between as well. So you need to acknowledge that. And I think we all have, it's very important to approach this particular understanding not from a family perspective, not from your own individualistic type of out view that you have, or worldview of family. For some families, not what you see it to be as well. Sure. So it's very important to understand that, listen, and try and empathize with the particular human being. Because I remember for the longest of time, being as stubborn as I was like, but nah, this person, why? What do you mean you're not going to go home? What do you mean you're not speaking to your sister? What do you mean you're not going home? It's December, it's festive. I mean, you need to be at home. But over the years, when one grows and one experience, you then tend to understand that the ideas of family that you hold, or the definition, is not the same with how people actually have. And that is actually changed or challenged by experiences that they have in family. So it's very important, number one, to know that don't be in positions or situations where you know you're not wanted. I mean, now there's a lot of things. I mean, there's comments that you'd find in families. I mean, again, speaking to the literacy and people being more woke and being more young and understanding, you know, you'd get an aunt who'd say, but when are you getting kids? But there's a lot of now disorders or sickness that we now have that we are more privy on, endometriosis and things like that women suffer from. So there's a lot of infertility that there's out there, and also there's still that, you know, vulnerability or stigma that comes with that as well. Not because, I mean, by virtue of society, toxic understanding of what it means to be a woman, it means you can bear children. As a man, it means you can protect and provide. So if you can't do that, therefore mental health will definitely arise. You'll then isolate yourself and seclude yourself in certain things. So particularly in this moment, the festive season, my happiness can never be the same as yours. Maybe my happiness could be that at least I'll now have solitude in not going home, and people will be, you know, Joburg is not going to be, it's going to be less busy as well. Yours would be then, I'm going to go see my parents, I'm going to see family. But also the underside is what we call sectional or seasonal affective disorder as well, which maybe we'll speak to later on in terms of the depression. Remember now, seasonal affective disorder speaks to a particular period in your life where you experience trauma or sadness or loss. So more often than not, that happens in December, the festive season. You'd find that maybe we've lost this particular person. A lot of people have passed away. So there's a lot of, I get there's spider webs. And the only time there's people at home is when I'm actually at home. So I then get to open, or I send money home because there's umfano katikai. So that on its own is a very, very sensitive topic for people to actually touch on, because a lot of the times people don't want to go home by virtue of being reminded of a trauma, because loss is also a trauma as well. So the symptoms of trauma that you avoid that particular environment where the trauma actually happened. In this case would be your home. So home then gets a different understanding or definition as well.
Sure.
So the festive season brings a lot of that as well that we need to understand. It's not only in terms of we are fighting, it's not only in terms of you now have the power, you feel empowered, at least you have a job, so therefore you're not going to go back home. But find means in that. So I'm not shoving people, family in their throats, but I think it's important for you to find meaning and a new understanding of how you can do family as well.
Sure.
It can't always be the same. We can't always go down to Joburg, to the Eastern Cape, or wherever we go in terms of our own dual citizenship or habitats that we have. So mhlambe kwami, my own identity or family could be me sending money, taking pictures, or even sending groceries as well. That will still be you actually fulfilling certain things within you as well. Because you find that maybe Begno Koko, Waipila, but now there's just that aunt or that uncle that you just don't get along. But Ukoko Saseko Nakala, from a spiritual sense or whatever, religious ideology that you believe in.
Yeah.
It's always important to give back to home and to give back to charity, that light. So there's different reasons as to why people won't be quite excited and eager for the festive season. And you find that maybe they work in firms or blue-collar jobs as well, where they know there's shut down, we close.
Sure.
So where are you going to go now? You can't stay at a place where, or rentilo, or it's informal rental as well. So you are then
kind of
forced to actually challenge and actually face what you call home. For instance, what you call a nightmare of a home.
Oh, what I'm hearing you say is we need to redefine what home and family is for ourselves.
Please.
And I think also, I remember listening to this other podcast called We Can Do Hard Things, and I think it was Glendon, I can't remember, but she was saying, I think what we forget as adults is like, you can leave the room. And what she meant by that is like, when you're a child and you're placed in a situation that's uncomfortable, or and or you're at a table and people start fighting, or your mom says whatever and your dad says whatever, like, you're a child, you don't have a sense of agency. They're adults and they kind of dictate to you what you can do and what you can't do. And she says, like, we forget when we're adults that we can leave. Like, you can walk out and you can leave. And she was saying that and explaining it in respective of, like, whatever situation that you're in, like, you can leave. You can walk out now. You're an adult, And I think we forget that. It's like, we go, I have to. It's it's December. I have to,
because toxicity becomes comfort.
Sure. Can you unpack that? Why?
Because it's what we know. I mean, it's consistency of whether it's a ugly or good narrative. It's something that is comfort in a sense that it happens this way. For instance, when we speak of, trauma bonding. Where a woman is actually being abused. She knows the ways and signs in terms of how it will actually happen before it even happens. She knows when he comes at this particular time, it will happen. When he calls my name from the gate outside, it will happen. So her moving or leaving that particular environment is quite difficult for her, because that has become a normalcy.
Sure.
Which normalcy has a lot of diagnosis as well. So for instance, it's even from 9 to 5s. You going to work, coming back on the 15th or the 30th to go do your grocery shopping, blah, 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 blah. That is quite diagnostic on its own.
Yeah.
People need something that is different and outside of that. And another trend that I've seen in my own practice is that I'm diagnosing a lot of people with depression who occupy jobs that are very mundane.
Sure.
People who do the same thing every day are depressed, and the ones that are actually susceptible to a lot of addictive type of disorders or behaviors, be it risky behaviors, sexual behaviors, be it a lot of smoking, be it a lot of drug taking, be it a lot of going back to that one particular ex that is actually not okay. So this mundane type of vibe is actually not healthy for anybody, which also comes back to the festive season. It's the same thing. We go home.
Over and over.
Yeah,
and over.
It's only the first time where I'm thinking, maybe New Year's, let me not go to Fryhead. Maybe let me do something different. Because that on its own is quite... You have so much time that you start seeing a lot of things that are actually not okay in the household. You're like, but I bought that fridge, but why is this fridge not well taken care of? But why is this and this and this? And then you see yourself as this rude, devilish breadwinner now. So it's important for us to, again, to be able to unpack that toxicity can't be comfort. We need to break that. We need to break free from that. So the minute you are comfortable, you then need to know that there's something problematic here.
And I can imagine, and I know from... it's so difficult to do, and I think one of the reasons is because then there's a fear of what's on the other side, right? If every December I go home, right, without fail, and I don't even question why. I don't even question, like, a lot of the times you come back and you feel so depleted.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have not had a break. December is a time for you to rest and relax, but you have been working since you arrived at that gate. One, you can't go just as yourself. Your boot must be full of groceries. And then even when you get there, you're paying every single day. There's that uncle that wants you to buy them a beer. There's this and there's that. And then you're also being asked all these questions, like you were saying, when are you doing this? When are you doing that? And when you think about it, like, if you're actually being objective and you're saying, what do I get out of this? Like, what does this do for me?
Yes, important question, actually. Very important question. Especially with that, you'd find that a lot of the times when people graduate in rite of passages, enemies also graduate. For instance, I can get married. For instance, I got married, speaking to the universe, I got married in this year. I go home. I've got an uncle or parent there who's not going to understand that Maliam is no longer there, money now. I'm investing at my own family as well. So that rite of passage, as much as giving me a new role and a new identity, but going home, it's still me doing the same thing every year in terms of going home in December. But that on its own is not going to actually, it's going to rattle a few feathers there as well. To say, but you've changed, you've done. But guys, I'm undergoing a particular rite of passage. So it's important for you to understand that there's certain rooms that you need to leave. There's certain conversations that you not need to be part of as well. There's certain people that don't even need to see you as well. So you need to be inaccessible by virtue of the spaces that you want to see yourself at as well.
That's difficult, bro. That's difficult. Because I can also imagine somebody listening, and I also get this, and it's usually like from males, because I have conversations like this around like marriage, where I'm just like, we can't do it the way we've done it before, right? And there is a change that's happening, but then I kind of hear people who listen to this and they're like, we saphela kanjalo, in the mnyama, oh, it's over, you know, for us, like, what of family, oh, manje senithi ingane abantu mabangasayi ekhaya, or whatever. And I think how I kind of answer to it is, we are trying to get to a new place.
There we go.
Where our people haven't been before. And for us to get to that new place, which is healthier, which is where we can speak, which is where we can be expressed and feel like we belong in ways that we never did, it requires for us to do new things. And I mean, you spoke about depression. Depression is largely misunderstood in our communities, right? Like, one of the symptoms is that, like, sometimes you don't want to get out of bed, you can't get out of bed, and in the home context is that you're lazy. How sungafika ekhaya ulale uDecember wonke noma uvuke ngo10 noma uvuke ngo11. One, I'm in this situation. I live in Joburg, I live in Durban, and I figured out ways to manage this kind of depression. I have a community maybe of people who understand work, they understand or whatever. But now it's December. Now there's the going home. Is there a way that I can explain to my family what it is that I'm going through? And what do I do if the support is not there? I feel like we've answered it in different ways here, but I think it's such a specific thing, and there's so much, I think, that you can unpack that people need to understand about depression and how it is that we support people in the season who are going through that.
Good. But sorry, let me just go back to what you said. I feel like you said something quite amazing when you said we are trying to get our people to a different place. Guys, we need to understand that this culture has one voice. We're trying to give culture many voices. This is why we are doing it in this particular time. Because we've always done things this way, and that's just one voice. So for you to challenge that voice is you wanting to give many voices to culture that is democratic as well, so that we then create certain new worlds that allows us to actually see each other as well. That's exactly what we then try to do as well.
We're trying to do something new, and it's not about stifling the other voices, but I think it's about questioning, like, how do they still serve us? And how do they get us to where we are? Now we're growing. Like there's so many cultural norms that we have that we don't question, but are they making us better?
That's the most important question you're supposed to be asking. But also it speaks to the question you just asked me as well. I mean, you're home. One of the symptoms of depression, maybe if I can just share more symptoms, is you losing interest in things that you used to actually enjoy doing. Could be you walking, could be you chilling with friends, could be even drinking, but you find yourself that you're drinking less now. Not because of health reasons, but it doesn't excite you anymore. You know, you lose weight. There's insomnia, there's hyperinsomnia as well. Difficulty sleeping. There's a lot of sleeping as well. You just want to actually sleep. And sometimes you won't show you won't show suicidal symptoms or suicidal ideation. But you mention words like, I just want to sleep and I'll wake up. You know, it's like giving away of clothes. That for me is a very important, you know, symptom of suicide as well. You know, giving away prized possessions as well. For instance, this being my favorite t-shirt, and then I'm like, no, you can have it. People are planning there. That person has particularly reached a particular, you know, subconscious level of now, I'm going to do it. And there's no taking that person back by saying, but you've got a house, you've got a kid, you've got this and this. Once they are there, it's quite difficult to bring them back. So it's very important for us also in this festive season to actually see those symptoms and to be able to know when to intervene as well. So depression is like feeling very moody in terms of low mood as well. And culturally or toxic identities or understanding will then say, but you're just being a woman, which is also very not a great thing to say as well. So it's very important in that particular, especially now in the festive season where everybody is prone to be jolly as well. People are still depressed. We're still depressed. We're still feeling very anxious as anxiety. And anxiety and depression happens in the same spectrum. Anxiety will ask you the question of, what if it doesn't work out? What if they doesn't like me? What if they don't accept me? What if this and this? Well, depression says, but you can't. Depression is crippling to a point where you don't see yourself doing that. So then anxiety makes you to isolate, to say, but it's fine. I mean, it's not like I do much. And then depression then makes you feel very sad to say, but they're not seeing me. So you're stuck in between of, I want to act, but I can't. You're stuck in the sense that, but it won't be enough. I can't perform because I'm less of a person. So it speaks to high feelings of self-worth as well. You see yourself as very worthless. So now it's December. I mean, a lot of songs are paying. Mama Pianos, 3 Steps. Everybody is outside performing and contributing to the spirit of this particular season as well. So now you are being left out. It's very important for you to have ways in terms of how you express yourself and for them to also see. Hence, emotion regulation is important, and not also forgetting yourself to say, okay, I'm in a room, people are happy, let me try and be happy. You're going to be miserable afterwards. Your cup will be very empty, and there'll be resentment that comes with that because you're resenting the people where they didn't even force you to be jolly and happy. You just saw, let me try and fit in. So it's important for people to understand. And as much as family will always know who you are, they will always just, but also the timing in that is quite important as well in terms of how you express. You can feel like we are therapy fit, but maybe at that time you're not ready to actually disclose. You're not ready to fully unpack and immerse yourself into therapy as well. So I think for me, the timing is key, as well as just to express yourself and let them know that, listen, I can't wait to come, whether it's the 10th of December, but please bear in mind that I've been recently diagnosed with this. And what it means is actually A, B, C, and D.
And I guess to kind of listen to what that feedback is and be able to discern whether it's going to be conducive for you or not to go. But you also touched on, I think, a very important point for this season, which is suicide, right? I think December brings about it a sense of wanting to reflect, but a sense of also tallying. How well did I do? What did I achieve? Did I tick off certain things? And then from a school perspective as well, there are college students and there are students that go to primary in high school, and there's a, did I pass, did I fail, did I pass as well as I wanted to? And we see the rise of suicide around this time where somebody doesn't pass their matric. How do we, there's the adult perspective where you just feel like I failed, we're to the end of the year, I had set out to do this, I thought by December, this is what my life would look like. And now I see none of that. And then there's just like a sense of loss of hope. And then, also from a student perspective, how does one deal with that in this festive season? That sense of just disappointment in how you and who you are at this end of the year?
Yeah, that's quite a tough one, because I mean, we are all not exempt from that.
Yeah.
I mean, what I normally tell people and patients, and especially friends, is that it's important for you to feel that disappointment. I mean, give yourself time out to feel that disappointment, because I don't want them to delve into what we call toxic positivity. You know, you just feel no, but you're like, but at least I have that, at least I have this and this. You shy away from actually addressing it as well. So toxic positivity is very toxic in the sense that you're not addressing the actual root cause as well as what you are feeling there. So disappointment, hurt, guilt, it's meant to be felt at that time. Give yourself time out, feel it, so that you know afterwards. So in that feeling, that moment, that's where you actually recreate. That's where you actually rebrand. That's actually where you then actually form solutions as to how you can actually go further and far. But at least that's very healthy in the sense that you felt it. You didn't want it to pass quite quickly as well.
And we do tend to either go from a very sunk to a very sunken place of like, it's all over, it's done, there's no way out, or you go to, it's okay, you know, and kind of too quickly going into solutions. So, and I do guess, I think if I kind of look at the conversation that we've had, I think a big theme is really allowing yourself to feel what it is that you feel, and giving license to that, right? In the sense of going, okay, what do I need? And if that means you're saying, actually, I'm not in the space where I can go home because now I am feeling this, right? I can acknowledge that I didn't do everything that I set out to. Can I really then take the addition of other people reminding me of that at home? Can I then be in a space where, you know, or do I need, you know, a situation where it's more lively? Is it going to make me feel better? But not trying to bypass and not trying to run away from those emotions. And I guess, as well as just like whatever family is, if you have people around you who are going through a particularly difficult time or who have failed, or, you know, how can we be there for each other? What does it look like for me to support somebody like that? Because I think sometimes you want to go into or whatever, and it's because sometimes we just don't know. Like, so how do I support somebody who is in a depressive state, somebody who feels they've failed, who has failed from an actual results perspective? How can we be there for each other in this? Because I could feel like I'm in a jolly mood, and then I've got somebody who's kind of a downer. How do we navigate that? I
think firstly we need to understand that there's no time frame in those feelings and those emotions as well. We can't rush them. We can't expect them now, dude, it's been like a few weeks, you need to be okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, loss and grief actually takes like it takes quite a while as well. So it's important for you to actually, you know, be there for them and actually just comfort them. I remember in high school I had an amazing friend, Unonjabule Zwane. I think she was my first female friend. I love her to bits still this day. She had lost her mother at that time. And I remember in my graduation, actually, in her speech, she said, I think Upene, this profession fits him like a glove. Because I remember when I lost my mom, I'd be so excited to meet him after school when we were waiting for our transport, just to speak to him, because what he'd do is just listen. So I think it's important to give people those platforms for us just to listen to them. And that's it. And sometimes therapy, that's all the therapy that one can actually need and want. It's just for you to be there for them and just listen. I wasn't giving out advice. I didn't know nothing at all. I was just there for a friend and didn't even realize that I was doing much more than I was actually doing at that time.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. And I think a lot of the times when people in our lives are going through difficult times and we want to do something, in one perspective it comes from a place of caring, but sometimes I think we make it about ourselves, right? It's about us wanting to be useful. It's about us wanting to feel that we, you know, that we did something. And I had friends a couple of months ago who lost someone very dear to them, and they sent out a message through another friend and said, like, we don't want people coming over to the house. We just want to sit by ourselves, and we want to feel this. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced something like that, right? And we're so used to, okay, no, sis is unborn, and we don't consider, is that what they need, you know?
Exactly.
And what then becomes interesting is the moment that somebody says like, no, like I actually just want to be alone or whatever, then you're like, how agafuna ukungibona, and you know, that's so selfish or whatever. And then I think then my question then becomes like, okay, but who is it about? You know, like, are you trying to help them, or is this about you wanting to exert a certain level of control? So I think that's a very, very good point. And it's something that I had to learn, because it took me aback as well to say, that's an interesting way. And again, it's exactly speaking to what you were saying. We're giving different voices. There was a specific way that we understood grief to be done, and now you've got this young couple that are saying, we don't want, because what are you going to do? You're going to come, now they must make you tea, now they must, you know, serve you. Now it's very counterproductive.
Yes, exactly,
you're not actually bringing, in some way you are, but it's questionable.
It
right?
is very questionable.
Yeah. So I do think that there's a lot of unlearning that we're having to do, especially as we found more language for the things that we're going through. We find more language for our traumas, language that our parents and our grandparents and everybody doesn't necessarily understand. But it doesn't mean that just because it's uncomfortable that we need to stop kind of forging that path.
No.
In fact, I think, and my husband and I always have this conversation where I'm like, the more uncomfortable it is, I think you probably need to go a little bit more towards it, because we tend to then go, that means I'm not supposed to be doing this. That means, and it's like, no, setting boundaries is uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you're not supposed to be doing them, to be doing that, right? Just to kind of get to the end, it's the festive season. We've unpacked a lot. What are a few practical tools that listeners can kind of use to safeguard their mental health during the holiday season? Whether you're at home, whether you decide to go home, whether you decide to stay here, what is the healthiest way for you to actually safeguard and to be there for yourself, which I think is important, so that you're kind of not lost in this, right? Because like you said, it's high peak, right? There's lots going on, and somebody could end up getting to a point where you've just partied the whole way, the whole year through, you've lost all your money, but you also didn't really have time. And now you get to the end of the year, or you get to the new year, and it's back to work, and you realize, sheesh, I'm exhausted. I didn't take any time to myself. I spent so much time just responding and showing up in a way that I'm told, where I see that this is what you do in the festive. We go out, or whatever. What are some of the tools that people can really go to in taking care of themselves and checking in with themselves in this festive season?
I think firstly, pause. I mean, you've been drinking the whole year. You've been doing the same thing the whole year.
Yeah.
So just understand that that's that. And also just it's important for you to have a budget as well. You know, not only a budget in terms of finance, but a budget in terms of your social capacity as well. You know, stop giving yourself too much out of to people as well. It's very important for you to understand that will also limit you from a lot of problems as well. And also realize that December does not mean the same for all of us. For some, it's a time of rest, it's a time for family, it's a time for drinking, it's time for just to reflect as well. So every now and then, always incorporate a high level of reflection as well. And how do you then actually take care of yourself as well? So it's important, whether there's a particular routine that you do in the morning, ensure that you've actually created a space at home to also do the same as well. Whether even if you're not going at home, have certain periods where you speak to family as well, if that is actually filling your cup as well. So it's important to try and do those dynamics as well. And if there's not much that you can do that actually can take you back to a place where there's home, maybe if you do go home, go to that church that you used to attend. It's quite nice in December. There's everybody. It's quite lovely as well. Just it gives you that sense of community as well. But it's important for you to understand that what December means for you. Is it a time of rest? Is it a time for you to splurge? Is it a time for you to also just not worry about certain things. So I think it's important for us to actually go in with the mindset of actually knowing exactly what we want out of this particular period. I know a lot of people, I've got a lot of friends who are like, I can't wait to actually have it pass. I fit into it.
Same.
They want to get to January, they want to get to ticking off goals, their vision board, they want to start, because it's quite destructive as well. Not to say that it's on or anything, but also December, it's quite busy. It takes you out of your daily routine as well. And routine is quite important for high functioning human beings as well. So you going outside of that and you seeing yourself outside in a different light, it's just a little bit discalculated as well. And
I always end off with this question, but you're in the therapy field, right? And as a black male with your very specific background, KZN, Zulu, or all of those things, and with the understanding and with your experience also as a practitioner, what is your belief? What is your extraordinary take on therapy for us as Black people? What is your strong belief around it, and what is it that you believe we need to understand, that people need to have, to take away from it, and its importance, especially for people who find themselves on the fence of just like, do I go? Do I not go? What is the point? And there is like that feeling of wanting to stay the same, because it's comfortable. We've seen certain family members who have brought in certain boundaries, and now abasafuna, and now they don't go home, and now they're the outsiders, and you're like, is it really worth it? What is your extraordinary take on therapy, the therapy field as a practitioner, and for people who just don't know if it's worth it or not?
All right. Thank you so much for that. I think my most important thing that I'd like people to take in terms of therapy is that therapy is amazing. Therapy works. I mean, therapy for me is a new way and understanding of how people can think about and see certain things in life. Because, we come from a culture that allows a lot of rigidity, that allows a lot of narrow-minded thinking as well. So when it comes to therapy, it's again giving you many voices and many hats to think outside of those hats as well. So it's important for you to find meaning in that. This is how I've actually been thinking, but this is also, there's alternatives as well. It's almost what we call in philosophy the principle of induction. The way that we see certain things, it's through empiricism. So we come to understand certain truth and knowledge. We attain them by virtue of the experiences that we pass through. But therapy then makes you aware of those experiences as well, to say, it's not only me getting an education, but it's also me wanting to invest in the particular person that I am. And it's always, I tell people this, for instance, if you are now graduating, you elevating yourself, imfundo should not only be a factor where it gives you a certain way, but imfundo sort of fills the cup of respect and mannerism as well. A person who's educated is a very humble person, is a person who then considers other people. Therapy does that as well. It fills a cup and makes you see different cultures as well. So for me, I understand most languages now by virtue of me being in this particular context as well. I didn't come with the rigidity of saying that this is how I'm narrow-minded. So therapy allows people to actually think in different ways and see themselves occupying and being what we call, again in philosophy, cultural relativists. I adapt the environment that I am at that particular time. Sociology calls it place identity theory. You occupy particular identity by virtue of the people that you interact with and the context environment that you find yourself at. So you're not one person with every person that you interact with. Therapy does that.
Sure. That's incredible. And how do you want to be remembered? What do you want to be remembered for in the space that you're in?
I want people to remember me the same as when they have a headache, they think of grandpa.
Sure.
So when people feel weak or feel very worrisome, I want them to think of Dr. Beta.
Sure, that's incredible. Thank you so much. I think your work is so incredible, and I think your voice is so important, particularly in this time. And I think just to add to what you said, once you kind of made the decision that you want to do something new, that you want to step out and forge a new path for yourself, that journey certainly isn't easy. And I think people like yourselves are then kind of the guides to help us through that, right? Because I think it's one thing to say we want to break generational curses, we want to forge new paths, we want to do things differently, we want to parent differently, we want to marriage differently, we want to go into the workspace differently, we want to live differently. We can't do that by ourselves.
No.
And there is a level of support that is needed. And for me, I always just go like, there's people who've studied this, there's people who, why would I not do it, And so for every big thing that I undertake, it's important for me to be able to have somebody who just knows better, and who can open my mind to new and better perspectives. Where can people get hold of you in order to get services? And are you still open in this season, or do you only open next year?
I closed last week.
Okay.
So this was just so people can find me on socials. I'm Dr_Beta, Dr. Beta on my socials. I've got a series that I call Conversations with Dr. Beta, unpack, break down certain tough, difficult mental health issues and disorders. They can find me on TikTok. I'm quite active, and I'm based in Joburg if they need help. Remember, it doesn't need to be me. I can refer. Therapy fit is very important. If you need a specific type of therapist, it's important. It doesn't need to be me at all. So I refer conversation. I do a lot of mentorship online as well. Please feel free to ask questions, come through. If you succeed, we all succeed.
Oh, thank you so much. I have a feeling we'll probably have you back because there's so much to unpack in this space. But to everybody that's been listening, thank you so much for staying. And I really hope that if anything, you from everything that we've spoken about, you just take some time to yourself. Before you do anything, reflect. Do I really need to? Why? And then what do I get out of it? But also, what are the opportunities that you have to give, and how does that feel for you? Thank you so much. Be kind to yourself. It's been a long year. A lot has happened, and just have grace for yourself. Feel whatever it is that you need, but in all of that, just have grace. And we'll see you guys next year. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. Bye.